I'm Kristen Ziegler with Minima, and today I have Rebecca Thomas with Not Another Diet and Cook, no recipe cooking course.
Yep.
And I brought her here today because I get asked the question, how do you cook minimalist, simple meals, and what ingredients do you keep in your kitchen all the time? Because yes, my husband and I, and by my husband and I mean my husband, does cook very simple, healthful, minimal ingredient, whole food meals without recipes, but we're not really the experts in this matter. We've spent years just kind of figuring it out and, making a lot of mistakes, as has Rebecca.
Totally.
And she has solidified it into this amazing course. Lots of awesome social media content as well to get you there a lot faster. So instead of trying to put together my own blog post or whatever about minimalist meal prep and cooking, I thought I would just invite Rebecca over to my house and ask her some questions so that she can share her wealth of knowledge with all of you.
And I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
I think we're going to figure out that we have a ton of overlap
we already
in our thinking about food. No one would come into my house and think that I'm a minimalist, but I think I operate like one.
Yeah.
And that's the crucial part.
So Rebecca, what does simplicity in the kitchen mean to you?
I think for me, it means constraints in a really good way. Mm-hmm. And where I bring simplicity into the kitchen, and and there's good reason for having it there, but where I bring it into the kitchen is to have a stable of ingredients, mm-hmm. and a stable of techniques, mm-hmm. and also simplicity in thinking about what food is. Mm-hmm. So I have a whole ethos of food and non-food.
Mm-hmm. That's actually how we first connected. You taught me what processed food
yes.
is, and it was mind-blowing.
Yes. This is a big part of what I do in my weight loss program, and everything I do is not necessarily about weight. It's all about health, but to be honest,
it's the byproduct, right?
100%, mm-hmm. and the protocols are the same for everything. Whatever your health goals are, you will do better if you eat whole foods, mm-hmm. and you will do better if you make them in your own home, right?
Yep.
So, but simplicity in the kitchen refers to ingredients that are reused. So you'll understand this as a minimalist. In my kitchen, there's no one ingredient for one dish.
It's a capsule wardrobe.
It's a capsule wardrobe.
For your kitchen.
100%. And the wardrobe analogy is a really good one, right? Like, we buy all these clothes. What percentage of the clothes do we actually wear? 20%? 10%? So this cooking course is about that 10 or 20% mm-hmm. that are workhorses,
yeah.
that make things delicious, mm-hmm. that allow you to easily prepare whole foods. So for simplicity's sake, for me, I think of it as a stable of ingredients, mm-hmm. techniques that are easy for either an advanced kitchen person or somebody just starting out. Mm-hmm. So what are the techniques that really deliver mm-hmm. and don't require, like 10 special knives right. that you need to buy and right. And gadgets and, right. all the things like that end up at the thrift store.
And also some of your techniques don't even involve like the oven or the stove.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It's quick and easy.
Yes. You don't have to cook everything. Mm-hmm. A lot of my meals actually are just putting together a few things that I had on hand.
Same with Jonathan and I.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that this course is exactly what your husband does.
Well, so every time Rebecca posts like a sample of a meal that she's making, I show my husband and I'm like, look, this is what you do. Like, it's very aligned, and we got there in different ways, but yeah. I think it's that same simplicity mindset. I think you probably see this a lot in other people's kitchens. I know I do. Aspirational clutter.
Oh God, I use that phrase of yours and I credit you every single time because it's genius.
I think I borrowed it from someone else. If I remember who, I'll be sure to credit them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, so when I started going to Pilates in 2019, that was inspired by my husband because he was way more athletic and calm. And I was just like, he never was like, you should work out. I just kind of was inspired. And so I tried Pilates. And you know what I didn't do before I went to my first few classes to make sure I liked it? buy sports gear.
Yes.
I went in my pajama leggings.
Thank you.
And a t-shirt I already owned.
You can do this without gadgets. And the reason I do say that is because how many times have you bought a kitchen gadget being like, I'm going to be a better cook?
This thing is gonna change me. No, you're gonna change.
That's
and then
right.
the thing might amplify your experience. But it might be clutter. And you're not gonna know that until you do the thing first.
Preach.
Yeah.
Like I still don't use gadgets in my cooking.
We don't have any either.
A good knife, a cutting board.
How many knives do you have?
Oh, I probably 3 or 4.
We have 3.
Yeah.
Plus like a set of table knives. We
That's
have
it.
a sentoku, a bread, and a
There you
paring.
go. That's all. That literally all you need. The what's missing is not another thing. It's the good information. Extra virgin olive oil, lemon, high quality sherry vinegar. Believe it or not, you can almost make anything delicious with those 3 things. I love good quality salt and recommend Celtic sea salt. Like that's what's in the course and that's what I use all the time. And then I'm a huge lover of tinned fish. And I don't mean to scare anybody who's like, oh my God, tinned fish. But there is a chapter in the course about this because it's both wild, highly nutritious, and if you get good quality, and I teach you about that in the course, you are getting something really, really delicious.
We just bought tinned fish like in the last month because of you.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm so glad. It's a wonderful product. It supports ethical fishing, and because they tend to be smaller fish, and they're also much more nutritious.
So let's talk about food waste.
This is such a huge subject, and frankly, I'm going to tell you this, you can pay for this course in 1 year. So the New York Times just came out with this fascinating article about food waste in our kitchens, and I want to tell you where I think the food waste comes from, and also give you the shocking number. So do you want to start with a number, or do you want to start where I think food waste comes from?
Start where you think food waste comes from. People will have a number in their mind.
Yes.
And it'll probably be off.
Yeah, so when you're thinking about this, don't go Google it, but like think about what you think the average family throws away in a dollar amount for food every year. And I'm going to tell you the factors that I think contribute to this, which
We see it too when we're decluttering a pantry or a kitchen.
I have no doubt about that. We have too many things. We have too much storage. We have too much storage, right? And there's actually this really great new book called Fridge or Freezer, I don't know, but that's the whole other thing.
We'll link it in the video.
Like there's an interesting thing about that too.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is this: we go to places to buy our food that encourage overconsumption
Bulk.
and over purchasing bulk items. In fact, I think a lot of the ways in which we shop, we don't even think about how triggered we are to purchase all
Right,
these
it's like,
things.
this is a good deal, but
Yes.
actually it's not, and you'll get to that.
That's right. It's not a good deal. The other is that when you buy food for individual recipes, there's nothing wrong with a recipe, but the way that I describe it is a recipe is very helpful for a very particular outcome.
Right.
I'm making this for Thanksgiving.
Right.
And I need it to look and taste like this. And then you use the recipe. No issue. I still use recipes on occasion. The problem is when you don't think of your kitchen in a holistic or a systemic way, you end up over purchasing because you don't actually know what you need and you don't know how to use up everything. Meal flow is a concept I developed to take any technique, ingredient, or food and repurpose it into a lot of different meals. And the reason that that's such an important idea is to reduce food waste. You don't have things dying at the back of your refrigerator because you had one application for them and you don't know now what else to do with it.
Again, capsule wardrobe.
Exactly. So the food waste number is $1,500 a year. I think there's a lot of pseudoscience around food and a lot of scare things. And this comes from diet culture, right? So you have these diets that say, don't eat this entire category of food. Well, I'm going to tell you that there's no diet that requires that.
So maybe cheese puffs or processed food.
Processed foods.
That's a category we can all cut out.
We can cut out. So what I've done is chapter by chapter only focused on real food or whole and unprocessed food.
That was one of the first things I learned from you.
Really?
Yeah, what is processed food? What is real food? 90% of the stuff in the grocery store is not real food.
It's not real food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you that it's not real food. And so if you accept that, okay, here's the thinking, right? If you accept that your health is going to improve and your weight or your bottom line, whatever I don't care.
And it's not going to cost more because we already covered the food waste.
Oh no, it's definitely not going to cost more. And
Yeah.
also, let's talk about healthcare costs.
But before that, can you give the viewers a quick synopsis of what is a whole food versus a processed
Yes.
food, like a 2-minute version?
Absolutely. Whole foods are real food. I put it into real food and then processed food. And real fast. Real food is picked, harvested, slaughtered, or fished as close to its original state as possible. Period. Now, this is going to, the rest of it is going to encompass why the problem is so deep and wide. Every single other thing is a processed food. Now, that isn't to tell you that some processing
There's
isn't
heritage
beneficial.
processing.
That's right. You
It's
remembered.
been around, girl. I screenshotted that thing. It's in my Google Drive.
That's awesome. So one of the things that you get with Cook is my webinar. It's actually comes as a freebie.
Is that what I took?
Yes.
Yeah, I loved that.
It's a webinar that teaches food processing so that you can go to the grocery store and make good decisions for yourself without a lot of like consternation, and also not falling for health washed stuff, right? But
Well, like what you were sharing was the most clear thing I'd ever heard, and it made sense. You know, I felt so overwhelmed. I'd been doing my own personal research, but then when I watched your webinar about processed foods, it all clicked. It was simple.
yeah.
And it made sense scientifically, conceptually, and I do think that even though Jonathan and I were doing a lot of the right things before, I shared what I learned, and I think we both deepened our knowledge, and I do
Nice.
think that further optimized what we were doing. It was
Oh
sort
my
of
gosh.
like a gateway to the next level.
Yes,
like
that's
he was already like ahead of me in terms
Yeah.
of knowledge, but it opened me up to a whole other world of health stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I eat entirely on the food processing scale. And what I think people don't understand is that a lot of what you see is actually ultra processed food. And I'll give it- cereal is for sure.
Chips?
Chips for the most part. They don't have to be. That can fall under moderate
What
processing.
about protein bars?
Ultra processed.
What about protein shakes?
Ultra processed.
Yeah. And why is that bad? Why is the processing bad?
Well, what is done to a food affects how your body takes it in. And that affects your endocrine system, it affects you metabolically, it affects how many calories. Now, I'm not a calorie counter, but I'm going to tell you that for a unit of energy, we're going to use the calorie appropriately. You use more of it. When you eat food that's whole foods, that has fiber built into it,
Yeah.
30% of the calories never even get taken in by your body. You get a quick haircut right there, but you have more feelings of fullness. You have all kinds of good things that come from that.
Yes, and I've noticed, and that speaks also to like saving money and
Yes.
like not buying in bulk. Jonathan and I, since we've switched to like, I think 90% or more like whole foods, like cutting out the processed stuff, I think that like our portion size is so much smaller, and I have never once felt like I've had to go hungry, deprive myself of
Absolutely.
flavor, of like excitement, of energy. Like it's crazy how like the quantity of a whole food to fill you up and make you feel good and give you the energy you need is so much less than eating like a ton of cereal or a ton
Yes.
of protein bars or whatever.
There's a design, but that is by design.
So you'll buy more and gain weight.
That's right.
And then end up in the healthcare system. And
Yes. And if you think those two, and look, I'm not a conspiracy
Yeah,
theorist.
me either. But I mean, it is what's happening, whether it was intentional or not.
Exactly.
So
that's right. That's
yeah.
exactly right. And look, the way that I think about it is I want my decisions to be mine. I want to decide, I want to listen to my hunger. I want to decide
Yeah, that's what I do. I eat when I'm hungry.
That's it. But you can't do that with food processing.
Because
You
you're
cannot.
always hungry. I mean,
That's
you're
right.
hungry often.
It's the trace amounts of sugar. A lot of people don't know this, but a little bit of sugar in your gut actually stimulates your hunger for quite a bit, many more hours later. It's not about like I ate a ton of sugar or not. And if you're eating processed food, 76%. Okay, this is for your audience.
Yeah.
76% of any food put into a package has added sugar. So you're essentially microdosing yourself all day long. Rice, pasta, and bread are the three I get the most questions about. They are not going to fall under, they fall under moderate food processing for me. Okay, so they do have a long tradition in culture. That part is
it heritage or is it past heritage on your scale?
It's past heritage, and here's the reason why. These are essentially filler foods that were created by humanity at a time when we didn't have a lot of access to calories. So I am not anti-bread, anti-pasta, or anti-rice.
We do jasmine rice, but not bread or pasta currently because of...
Most of that is okay, but what I would tell you for the people, if you don't have weight struggles and you just want to eat this as part of your whole food diet, do it. If you do, where you're somebody like me who can put it on very quickly, I adhere to low glycemic eating, which means that I combine it with fats and proteins.
And you talk about how to do that in your course?
Absolutely. In every chapter, I slip that information in so that you get the good information. So I would say, like, when you get a rice bowl from Jonathan, it has a veggie.
And it has a meat or
it has
fish.
A protein. And it probably has some sort of sauce with extra virgin olive oil, something like that.
Sometimes he'll just put extra virgin olive oil just drizzled on, like if it's a high quality.
That's right.
And it tastes so good.
So delicious.
With the rice, like the texture it gives it, I don't know, it's just
it's
really
very good.
Yeah, we never just eat a bowl of rice. It's always like
that's right.
Eat a little bit of something.
So my tip for that is think about how a culture uses one of these sort of what I call filler foods, pasta, bread, that kind of thing. And try to eat it the way a culture eats, like the Italians. Right, the Italians don't eat big giant things of pasta. They put it together with beans, which now lowers the glycemic index.
Right. So you're out at the grocery store or the farmer's market. How do you identify real food?
Well, if your ancestors, and I say ancestors in particular because my grandmother ate a bunch of processed food.
Further back.
Yes, you need to go further back. If your ancestors would recognize it as food, you're in good shape. And
that rules out a lot.
That rules out a ton.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to start your journey of eliminating processed foods, let me give your readers two things to focus on. This is where I started many years ago, and I still use this tip. When you're evaluating a package, the other thing I like about eating whole foods, by the way, is that you don't have anything to read. There's nothing to read on the back.
What are these ingredients?
You don't. You're eating ingredients, therefore you don't need to read them. But if you are buying a packaged food, look for two things, and if you find either one of them, I suggest you put it back. One is added sugar, and sugar now has 56 different names, which is one of the reasons I don't eat a lot of packaged foods. I don't want to be a food scientist, but start looking to see if you see a common theme of added sugar. Put it back. The other one is if you see chemicals in your food that you would not cook with in your own kitchen, I also suggest putting it back. Now, food scientists will tell me, well, Rebecca, some of these are just preservatives. They're fine. Well, my answer is this. Some preservatives also do double duty in helping the food fall apart in your mouth. They do a thing so that you take in more. So my question to you is, would you like to stay ahead of the trends on food science and know which preservatives are good or bad?
Doesn't sound like the best use of my time.
Not really, and not mine either, and I'm a food person. I don't care and I don't want to think about this. So back to simplicity. I have a very simple ethos. If the ingredients on the back are not things that I would recognize about bringing into my own kitchen and eating, or there's added sugar,
put it back.
Put it back. The way I put it in my course is treats live at the store.
They live at the store.
Treats live at the store.
Yeah.
And
let the store store it.
Yeah, let them.
Same with all the bulk stuff. Let the store store it.
Diet culture will say you make good choices and bad choices. But what you and I have figured out is that what's in your environment is what you're going to consume.
There's the hack. Just don't buy it.
Don't take it home.
Yeah.
And like I love ice cream, and you will never find a pint of ice cream in my refrigerator, but I do go to Spotty Dog, which is in my neighborhood.
And then also you're getting out into the world. You're leaving the house. You're engaging with the community.
Taking a walk, hopefully. I walk to go get my ice cream, so you walk and get it, and then you walk home.
We both live in the city.
Yes, we do. We're both definitely
by
city
choice,
dwellers, as if you couldn't tell by looking at us.
I never get in the car. You
yeah,
know?
I try not to.
Yeah.
I drove over here, but only so I didn't look sweaty on camera.
Right. Yeah.
But these are all really good ethos. Now, look, what's in Cook is not that. If you follow me in other capacities, you'll hear, when I say diet advice, I don't mean dieting.
Right.
I mean what you're consuming.
Right.
And I do think through these various aspects because modern life requires that you be intentional. If we were hunter-gatherers living in a subsistence environment, we would not need to think through our consumption.
Right.
But the modern world requires that we think through our consumption. And so that's why you're tuning in, and that's why you're listening to us.
Yeah. You were telling me how you never would have thought you would have been an avid mountain biker
No.
like 10, 15 years ago. Things don't happen overnight. I did not have this like super optimized, simple lifestyle, 15, 20 years ago. It happens in steps.
That's right.
And I think that's what's so beautiful about your approach too, is it's not about, okay, do this dramatic diet culture, this hack, and
Yeah.
that's not sustainable.
No.
None of the diets are sustainable because we can't restrict ourselves and eat in this really weird way forever. Eventually you're going to crash and burn, binge eat, whatever it is,
Yes.
I think this would be a good time to share your story actually. 'Cause
Sure.
I think that's super relevant and kind of further legitimized, because like I kind of have my minimalism origin story, right?
Yeah.
You're sort of like cooking healthy meal origin story.
Yeah. I mean, I come from a food background. I was a restaurateur for a number of years. So my interest in food has always been high. And what is interesting about that is that it actually what propelled me to put down dieting, because I felt that dieting disrespected food.
Yeah, it does.
It does. And I was unwilling to participate in the disrespect of my own food. So I don't know, and I don't have another way to tell you that. But what happened was that I didn't really understand how to take care of myself through my 20s and 30s, which
We're not taught that,
Thank you.
unless you have parents or, mentors who teach it to you.
Not just that, but what we really need to understand is how to navigate a world that encourages overconsumption at every level.
And there's just so much BS.
Totally. But we're in ancestral bodies navigating a modern world. This is a new frontier for our very, very old DNA, right? In any case, so by the time I got through my 30s, I was about 50 to 55 pounds overweight. And I didn't know that.
In like from where you are right now?
Yes.
Okay.
So now, it'd be a long story to explain how I got there. I just really didn't understand how to take care of myself. It wasn't that I was super lethargic or anything like that. It just, it was gradual. And then all of a sudden I get to my late 30s and I'm like, what?
What happened? Yeah.
Happened? Now, during this long period, I really tried a lot of diets. Like I gave it a go, like whatever dumb idea you had.
Maybe this one's the one for you. Yeah.
Like, let's try it. And I think I got to the point where, and this is something I cultivate a lot, which is sort of listening to your essential self. I got to the point in my late 30s where I looked at it and I looked at the app and, I was doing one more food tracking thing. And I just said, I don't think I can do another one of this. And not only that, I'm never, ever, ever going to do another diet again, period.
And that was it.
That was it. And that really was like a turning point for me. And I didn't know at the time if I could lose weight, how I might lose weight, what that might even look like, But I started doing two things.
Yeah.
I cooked a lot. I focused a lot more on whole foods out of my own kitchen.
Yeah.
And I took a lot more walks.
Walks are life-changing.
Walks are life-changing.
When Jonathan and I met, I was like, how are you so calm? And he had a dog at the time, and he was out on walks for like 2 to 3 hours of his day.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's something to that. So
Yes.
I've incorporated that.
And
it's free.
It's free, and not only that, but I think of it as an emotional regulation tool. It turns out that it lowers the glycemic index of your meal, so it's a really good thing to do after you eat. But
So that old saying is totally true.
it's 100% true. So 50 pounds of that came off as I figured out how to eat with my hunger and what whole foods were and how to prepare them easily.
Yeah.
And then I did turn into an avid runner after that. But like the way I try to explain it is those sports came after It wasn't, at January 1, you see everybody at the gym
Oh yeah.
working out hard. Like, that's not the first step.
Right.
Cooking your own food.
Then you have the energy.
That's
and
right.
you talked, you did a post a while ago about body positivity versus weight loss. And you
Yeah.
were like, it's not a black and white situation.
Nope.
But you talked about the opportunity cost
Yes.
of not being at a weight that's healthy for your body.
I think they're
and
huge.
And so,
Yeah.
running, mountain biking,
Yes.
walking, all of those things are hard.
Yes, and they're hard, and I'm able to do them because I have dialed in my health now.
Yeah.
So it has opened up a life for me. One of the statistics that I give that I think helps people understand what I've accomplished is that less than 4% of people lose a significant amount of weight and keep it off past a decade. I'm now 14 years in, and there's no...
Did you ever feel restricted or like
not
you're
one
missing
day.
out? No FOMO?
Not one day. Not one day.
Yeah.
I don't ever go hungry. I don't understand any of that. A lot
And the
of
food you prepare looks so delicious.
It's delicious.
It looks so good. I like drool when you post about it.
Who's going to stick to something if they're not enjoying it?
Right.
This last year, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I know that you have this beautiful blog post about working with clients with ADHD.
We'll link it in the video.
Yes, it's a really good one. And I read it because I was interested in. I read your stuff also. Like all the blog posts are so gorgeous and filled with good information. But one of the reasons that I came up with both my weight loss system and this Cook course, because the crux of Cook is that there's no recipes, it's intuitive cooking, it's systemic, it's holistic, and the reason for that is that my head is a very noisy place. And the way that I function best is to be able to take things down to a good level of simplicity so that I can function in that environment. And, minimalism is one way to do that, but also understanding your kitchen in a different way and understanding food in a different way.
Well, and I think a lot of people say, well, why should I hire you? Why should you hire Minima?
Yeah.
Minima or Rebecca?
Yeah.
Why should they take your course? Well, complicating life is easy.
Yes.
Creating simplicity is hard.
That's right. Do you know who Esther Perel is?
I've heard the name, but I don't.
She's a therapist who's sort of famous now, very, very bright woman. She has this thing called Own the Wanting. And I really love that statement because what it does is it makes you say out loud to yourself what is important to you. And if your health is important to you, then you have to be clear with yourself about that and then begin the process of eliminating what is keeping you from your good health and collecting good information about how to enact health. Health is not bestowed. Health is not a shake. Health is not even a particular
It's not a moral
workout.
stance.
No.
You're not a good or bad person for being a certain weight or a certain health
No,
level.
no.
It's literally just the algorithm of life that you've gone down.
Yes.
And this is where you're at. But you are the expert. Like, you have that solidified, simple information package.
Yeah.
That I'm just so excited
Nice.
to share with everyone because it, like I said, it is the minima version of life in the kitchen, meal prepping. And I find that I do my best work as a small business owner. My best version of a partner when I am prioritizing my health.
Yes. You and I share that. That's the most important thing to me. I mean, I love my family.
I wouldn't have said that 10 or 15 years ago, but now where I'm at, and in hindsight, I'm like, yeah.
Well, also because, I will point out that you've built something over time.
Yeah.
And I have too. And now those things are tremendous assets to me.
Yeah.
They allow me to, I've done camping trips solo across the country by myself. I've taken on physical challenges. I rely on my body every day and know that it's going to deliver for me. But also I have this feeling of not worrying all the time.
Autonomy.
It totally, I don't worry about my body and I
me
don't
either.
worry about how to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And
that's freeing.
Oh my God.
Because freedom is both of our free time and peace and freedom are shared core values.
Absolutely. I mean, part of the reason you've built this business and I'm building mine is to be able to have a life that is congruent with my ability to take care of myself. And so I love teaching it, but also I have strong boundaries around the time and the focus that it's needed.
Well, is there anything else that you want to share with Minima's audience?
I think we've covered a ton of ground. I would just say that if you are at a stage in life where you're ready to listen, where you are ready to get a little bit granular and go back to the basics, and are ready for wisdom to come in instead of a lot of fluff, I think you will find this course very helpful.
And I think that if you enjoy Minima's content and approach and voice, you will absolutely enjoy Rebecca's. And I know you say this about food. I feel like simplifying your home, simplifying your kitchen and your food consumption, wherever you start, that is going to build a foundation. That is going to be rocket fuel for you to achieve your goals. I joke that minimalism and decluttering is like a gateway drug to achieve all of life's goals.
Yes. And you're living proof of that. I mean, you know, your ability to build this business, your ability to consistently communicate these ideals.
Life is so exciting too, because like I try to live a very unattached, in the moment life without expectations of what the future will hold. But because I've optimized, because I'm able to like see an opportunity or
and respond
to it when it's the right fit, these incredible collaborations like this and like others just come into my world that 5-10 years ago I never would have imagined. So the point is, your life can be better than you've ever imagined.
I agree. And I'm inspired by your work in my own small business journey and my own ability to, I love the idea of women thinking deeply about life, and then
we both value time for thought.
Yes, we do. And communicating it through intellectual means. Like these are really important things to do. And I think our ability to care for ourselves is at the center of that.
I agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kristen.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. It's always fun. I mean, we could talk for hours about our common threads.
But I appreciate the time that you've given me and your audience, and thank you so much.
Well, I know they're going to get so much value out of this, and definitely check out her course. It's life-changing. It was for us. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is my post-pandemic high five.